All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the High QA Manufacturing Quality Software webinar series. This one really is tied to our product webinar series, 5 tips to integrate ERP and manufacturing quality. So real quick, before we jump into the presentation here today, we do have a couple housekeeping items. First of all, due to the size of the webinar and the number of attendees, thank you very much. We are on mute, so all attendees are muted. So again, just doesn't lend itself to being able to ask questions live verbally. But we do want you to ask your questions, and certainly we want to answer them as they come in as well. So there is a Q&A button in your dashboard of the webinar, the WebEx meeting here. Excuse me, yeah, so there's a Q&A button there, so please do answer your questions there. And then finally, this webinar is being recorded, so feel free to listen, take it in. Don't feel that you have to write down everything that we have in there. For those that have attended, and even those who haven't, if you have to miss part of it, we will be recording this, so we'll definitely send this out after the recording. Today's presenters, myself, I'm Scott Boeing, VP of Customer Success and Account Management here at High QA. And with me, I have Chris Mendocino, VP of Product. Chris, say hello. And we'll be the two main presenters here today. We do have a couple other staff in the background being able to answer questions and reply as they come up, but we will try to answer those verbally for everyone as well. So in today's webinar, we really want to cover a couple topics. First, really, obviously, the topic of today is integrating your ERP with your quality management software. And we want to first touch base on why that's important and why you should do that or think about doing that. And then ultimately, how you're able to integrate your ERP with High QA as your quality management software. Now, with that being said, we're going to cover those two topics first. Also, at the back end, we'll then dig into really who is High QA and ultimately what we do from beginning to end. Again, we're tackling that at the end because we're actually in a unique situation here today where we have existing customers joining us, but we also have prospective customers joining us as well. So for anyone who wants to learn a little bit more about who High QA is and kind of what we do from beginning to end, we'll tackle that at the very end, but want to get into the topic at hand first and kind of jump into that. And with that, I'll turn things first over to Chris and let him talk about our ERP integration with High QA. Go for it, Chris.
Yep, thanks, Scott. Awesome. So yeah, we really wanted to talk to you guys because for those of you who have been with us for some time, ERP integrations isn't a crazy new concept. We've been talking about that for a while, but we do have some new technologies and tools to make that easier. So that's kind of a highlight that we want to bring up today. What we want to start off with is just for those of you that maybe haven't thought about integrating with your ERP system in the past or synchronizing data back and forth between your ERP and High QA, why would we even be interested in doing this? Let's start with that first. So first off, when you're working with multiple major software platforms in a business, this isn't unique to High QA. It's any kind of software packages that you're running. You want to make sure that there's consistency in the business logic between them. So as you can see, some of the bullet points here, we want to break down data silos. We want to have consistent data among systems, et cetera. You guys can read the bullet points here. But the mentality here is, each system that you buy has its kind of area of value that it's bringing to your company. It's allowing certain types of processes to be more efficient and take place in a digital realm, be more automated, things like that. But those systems do have certain overlapping elements, which are reasons to do integrations and synchronize data back and forth to make sure that you're eliminating any kind of redundancy in that data entry and things flow seamlessly. We don't want to always feel like we're working between separate products all the time. And, so we'll get into some of the use cases of what we're trying to support there. Okay. So if we go to the next one. So what's the relationship between ERP and qualities in particular? Okay. Specifically with how high QA addresses kind of the engineering side of quality. So in building inspection plans, operation steps, dispatching down to the shop floor, we utilize job numbers, lot numbers, serial numbers, all that kind of stuff. A lot of those records exist in your ERP system as well as a concept, but you're tracking different types of information against those records. Okay, so for example, let's talk about like a part record. At an ERP level, I might do, I track my part records for inventory purposes, for bill of materials, for planning out my routings and doing like estimating and cost analysis. How much time is each operation step going to take for setup, for production and runtime, all that kind of stuff that you do inside of an ERP. Okay, when we look at a part record though, our part record is a quality plan, like an inspection plan. Okay, something where, for those of you that are familiar with high QA, this is nothing new, but we do have prospects on the call as well. So we want to make sure that we're kind of addressing the foundations here as well. But when we're looking at a part record in high QA, we're also we're building an inspection plan at kind of an upper level. We're building operation steps because we want to say at which point in the process we're inspecting each individual feature. And then we issue a job, right? That gets, by which we track all of the inspection data that we're collecting. So you're collecting data from your CMMs, you're collecting inspection data from your inspectors on the shop floor that are doing handheld inspections. All that data gets collected against a job record, potentially even a lot record if you subdivide your jobs into lots. There's a lot of different ways to use our product because there's a lot of different ways that people work. All of those, though, those part records, job records, lots, primarily, and operations, sorry, those are the main four that we don't want to have to redundantly enter those record numbers into high QA if they already exist in the ERP system. Pretty straightforward. So one, it saves us time. And two, it reduces or it even eliminates the possibility of making an error there. Okay. I thought I had notifications turned off. I never see notifications, but oh, it's actually Scott presenting, so that's fine. Never mind. Okay, so those are some of the main elements that we look to synchronize between the different ERP systems. So let's talk about what we've done traditionally on the next slide here. Is typically we've had a solution for this for the previous number of years here that we've been working with you guys. We've had what's called a RESTful API. It's a standard API stands for Application Programming Interface. RESTful API is basically the industry standard for API languages. Okay, so that's all that means. It's if you have a developer working with you or any sort of integration resource, then they're going to know what a RESTful API is. They're going to know how to work with it. It's really straightforward. But what we've done historically is worked with these RESTful APIs, and our position has been we give you the tools to do just about anything you would want to with our system through a library of standard hooks to access, to pull data out of our database, to put data into our database, and so on using this RESTful API. So while it's an extremely comprehensive and versatile tool, it does require programming knowledge, right? It requires you to have a programming resource on staff or to work with an outside third party who's going to come in and consult with you and build some sort of integration middleware to connect the two products together. So it does become quite a project, and not every one of our customers. In fact, I would say the majority of our customers are small to mid-sized companies below 1,000 employees that maybe just don't have those types of resources readily available to them. So what that kind of brings us to our solution that we have today. Okay, so what we've built out here is a whole new toolkit for building off-the-shelf integrations. Okay. So our goal was to have something as close to plug and play with minimal to no programming effort required, so that you guys can get up and running right from the ground level. As soon as you're working with high QA, whether you're a new implementation, or if you have been working with us for some time and you're ready to go to that next level, as soon as you're ready, we can get you up and running with some best practices for connecting to your ERP. Okay, so that was our goal, and what we had in mind there is to eliminate that sort of setup time. And I think that's something we've accomplished quite well. So we've spent the last year or so developing this sort of a scripting platform that allows us to build a library of standard off-the-shelf connector products. Okay, and so we call them HQA Connect. That's the library that we refer to. And so we have a series of standard off-the-shelf connectors for a few different ERP systems right now. I believe the current ones are JobBoss, Epicor, and Visual ERP. Those are the three that we have standard, ready to go in our library. You can buy them today if you wanted to, currently in the library, okay? There is a large number of ERP systems that we also have in our pipeline that we are looking to add to that library as well. The reason that we went this way, and I want to tell you a little bit about the technology that went into building this, because it's important, because it helps you understand our mindset when we are, as a technology company, building tools to serve you and help you guys be as effective as possible in your business. What we built is a kind of a scripting platform where we're able to build kind of a library of script language and calls and functions, business logic, that is then kind of handling all of the calls to our system, all of the push and pull of data into and from our system. And then what we found is, between different ERP systems, most of what people want to do, most of the business use cases, the business logic, is pretty standard. And we're going to talk about that in a minute, exactly what that business logic is that we've kind of standardized around. But most people want the same general things. And so what we've been able to do is build these connectors to where they are 85, 90, 95% reusable across the different ERP systems. Okay, so what's really cool is that means that we're able to scale very, very quickly. So if you are looking at our library of off-the-shelf connectors, I mentioned those three: JobBoss, Epicor, and Visual. If you're looking at those and you're saying, oh, well, I use Global Shop, or I use JobBoss Squared, you know, a different variant of JobBoss. It could be a whole bunch of different things that you use. That doesn't mean that we're not ready to start working with you. Let us know, reach out to us and say, hey, this is the ERP system that I have. What would it take to get a connector put in place? It's something that we can actually be fairly responsive to, because of the technology that we've built that's highly recyclable across different ERP connectors. Okay. So that's just something really that we're quite excited about, is the approach that we took, the solution, the path that we kind of found here for this. So one thing that you guys might be asking yourselves is, from a security standpoint, you know, I just wanted to put this up on the screen here for you guys, so that maybe, you know, take a screenshot or something. We're going to be sending out these slides at the end of the session, but just so you can go back to your IT reps, and they're going to have questions about this. Well, from what kind of securities do they have in place if we're exchanging data between platforms and so on. So we wanted to make sure that you guys have this ready to go. Everything is HTTPS and SSL, just like our apps that we have today for the web-based apps for data collection. There's Active Directory integration. There's user permission controls for what you can and can't do with this connector, because the connector actually has a UI to it as well. It's an application that lets you interface between the systems and decide what you want to push-pull. We'll look at that in just a minute. And so on. So you guys can read the rest of this here, but we just wanted to put a quick plug in there that this is, you know, state-of-the-art, top security. So that's something you can go back to your IT people with. And if your IT reps have more questions about this, we have more in-depth information that we can share with them to make sure that they're checking off all the boxes that they have for your internal business requirements. Okay. So let's shift over. Let's talk about the typical workflow that happens with an ERP connector. What we've done, just to start with, because these products are still fairly fresh, fairly new, we start with a scope of functionality that covers about 85% of what we've seen for needs in the market space. Okay, so it doesn't cover everything. We definitely have roadmap for more things that we want to do with these connectors. But this is where all three of the ones that we have that are currently available have this functionality built into them. The ability to synchronize part records. So you have a part record in your ERP system. We can trigger part record creation in HighQA from that ERP record. Okay, so the HighQA will take on the part number, the customer, the part name, any kind of a short description, things like that, right? So another step here is if there's a drawing attached to the part record in the ERP, some ERPs do that, we can actually take that drawing at that point, import that during the creation of the part record in HighQA, and even trigger the auto ballooning process. So that flow doesn't work with every ERP system. You know, it really is use case dependent, but that's something very cool that we can do if it makes sense within your business logic. Okay. Something that's not actually on here that I forgot to add, we can do it for the next time that we put this in, is when syncing your part record, you're also syncing operation steps too. So if you have parts that go through multiple operation steps, you don't have to recreate those operations in HighQA. You can have them imported in so that as soon as you open that part record for the first time, everything's kind of set up for you and framed out, and you're just applying the details of the inspection planning process. Okay. Another aspect that's in here is the job creation for scalability. Now, this is where this is the third bullet here, where we're adding huge time savings and scalability to your system. Okay, so the part creation is kind of nice. It's saving some time. It's reducing errors. You know, there's value there. But the job creation is where we're seeing really huge value for customers that are producing a large number of jobs on a weekly or monthly basis, and you're looking to keep your teams relatively small, scalable, and so on. So this can be as sophisticated as you really need it to be, to where think about once you initiate an inspection plan at a part level in HighQA, each time that you have a new order, when we say job, but you might have a different language. So it could be work order, production order, things like that. It's all the same thing. It's basically an order from your customer for a particular quantity of those parts. And so when you get those orders, traditionally, if you're not synchronizing data back and forth, then you're going to issue that order in your ERP system. You need that in there. But then you're going to go and also kick off the same job number in HighQA. That might not be a big deal if you're doing, like 12 jobs a month or something. But if you're doing, 100, 200, 300 jobs a month that are running through your system, that's quite a bit of extra work, or can be, even if it's only, 2, 3, 4 minutes per job that you're trying to make. So now with this, when you're synchronizing between the two systems, as you issue a job in the ERP, it will trigger that job creation in HighQA, using the correct job number, the quantity, the due date, all that kind of information. And it can even trigger your sample creation as well. So ideally, depending on how repeatable and predictable your job creation is and what kind of rules we can put in place, depends on, your business and the logic there. Everybody's a little bit different, but the ideal is we want to get as close as we can to the idea of when you have a job created in your ERP, it's just created, it goes into high QA, and you shouldn't have to do all that much, if anything, in high QA to get that to be available on the shop floor for inspectors to start opening up their inspection plans and doing their work. Okay, so that's the ultimate goal. And that kind of gets into that last bullet as well there. Samples can be generated upon job creation as well. Okay. All right. So obviously this is pretty highly tailored towards or the large value of this integration is coming to those who are doing kind of digital data collection on the shop floor using our data collection apps and such. That's where you're going to want those jobs to be created automatically and pushed down to the shop floor. But yeah, so this here, we want to just pull up a couple screenshots of what we're talking about. I mentioned that there's kind of a user interface between the two systems that allows you to kind of decide what's going to get imported. So as a quality engineer who's working with I'm going to put my quality engineer hat on, my job is to work with high QA, start building inspection plans and so on. Instead of having to create a new part from scratch in high QA now, what I can do is pull up HQA Connect. That's what you see on the screen here. And I can see, let's see, Scott, I don't know if there's a way for me to highlight something, but if you can move your mouse potentially over on the screen. So the left side there's three main spots. There's import plans, import operations, and import jobs. Okay, so right now what we're looking at, you can see it kind of in the upper area where it's import plans. That's kind of the page that we're on. And so I'm able to see every part number in the ERP system, and we can even break that down by routing. This particular screenshot doesn't have that because the integration we took this from didn't have multiple routings, but it would show you the multiple routings per part number if that was applicable in your ERP. So for each part number routing combination, we can just see what's in the system, what's in queue, and we can, over on the right side, we can import that using a few different scenarios or methodologies for initiating that part number in the system. I don't want to get into exactly what those are and what the business logic is. That's kind of outside the scope of today. Just trust that we've gone through a lot of different use case mappings with customers to determine, okay, you sometimes need a couple of different options to get the outcome that you're looking to achieve. Okay. So this gives you a queue of what has not yet been imported into high QA that could be, right? And so there's some statusing that goes on here as well, where you can flag something as saying, I don't need this one in high QA or that one. People have part numbers and stuff for a variety of different purposes in their system that may not need an inspection plan against them. Okay, so all that logic is kind of built in here. There's other pages. If we go to the next slide there. So this one, we're looking at the importing of operations. So that's where we've imported our part. And you can see there's two rows here, two different parts that we've imported. One of them, you can see the status in the right columns there. There's plan status and ops status. And we can see that the plans were imported for both of them, but we've only imported the ops for part number 10077. Okay. So for part number 10097, we haven't imported those ops yet. And so it's kind of giving us an indication that we might want to do that. But ultimately, you get to make the decision on what you want synchronized. Now, I should preface something here too, is that we do have the technology is there to be able to automate the importing of these part records, operations, and jobs, and so on. And you could do it seamlessly kind of behind the scenes. The reason we're showing this is that we've identified with a number of customers, as we go to do that, ideally, it'd be nice to just have it automated fully in the background, but sometimes the business logic, or often enough, the business logic that you guys have isn't consistent enough to be able to make a hard-coded like automation rule around how items should be imported into high QA. So this is sort of the happy medium where you're able to have an interface to just say, okay, cool, kick off this part record, this part record, this part record. These are the ones that I want. And it gets you, instead of having to enter the data in all by hand, it's a way to basically just copy paste it from your ERP system into HighQA. It's a way you could think of it. Okay. And then a very similar screen, I believe, next is just your jobs. Again, giving you some status indication of what's been imported, what hasn't been yet. And this gives you a few different tools for how to initiate the jobs, whether you want samples created against them immediately or not. All that stuff is there, and you have those capabilities. Okay. So that is the bulk of what we wanted to kind of cover there from like a technical perspective on what's going on. But in short, in recap, in general, we wanted to let you know that ERP systems, HighQA, they can talk together. It doesn't have to be a huge project, a huge overhaul, a huge investment. We've priced them extremely affordably for something of this value that you're getting. And it's something we're pretty proud of, the work that we've done over the last year and a half or so. And I believe we also have some customer testimonials that are going to be coming out fairly shortly with just the use cases that customers have implemented already with these systems. Each one's a little bit different depending on the ERP system, depending on the business model, and so on. So we're going to have kind of a series of those that'll come out over time. But yeah, it's something that we're excited about, and hopefully you guys are too. And with that, we're ready for questions.
Yep, and we have quite a few that we'll jump into, and I'll try and I think there's some similar questions. One I saw a bunch about in a couple different areas. And when we were talking about the security slide, this came up. Ultimately, with a growing push toward CMMC compliance, will this integration and those pursuing this compliance need to work with HighQA to make sure security satisfies those requirements, or will the security systems be in place? Will that be sufficient? So I don't know, Chris, if you could talk to ultimately what we're doing with CMMC and how we're,
Yeah, real brief comment on CMMC. It is something that's absolutely that we're paying attention to as a company. Obviously, the government's not enforcing it just yet. That's targeted for 2025. We are built. I can't remember the exact levels. I got to think about it because it's not my particular area of expertise. But I do know we are compatible or compliant up to a particular level. But I know that just shifted because we went from Model 1 to Model 2 just recently. We have a whole pitch for anybody that wants to meet and discuss with us where we're at with CMMC, what our roadmap is, and so on. The integration, actually, the HQA Connect tool is actually already CMMC compliant. So that's a non-issue. There are a couple of things in the product that we are working on CMMC compliance and upping the compliance level there. So that's something we expect to be fully ready for by the time the government starts enforcing it in 2025. Okay, so details on that. And if you'd like to meet with us and talk more, that's certainly something we can get into.
Perfect. Also, just kind of a question regarding what ERPs we connect with, and specifically Epicor Cloud and Cloud Connect. But ultimately, yes, we do integrate with Epicor Cloud. They have their API tools that we are able to pull from, and again, pull that data directly out of Epicor and into our database. So are working with, I think, a couple customers already that are on the Epicor Cloud Connect product as well. So that is absolutely one that we support currently.
Yep. There's a few in the queue there as well that Effie had provided some text answers to, but I can elaborate on some of that as well. So there was a question about what is the output from HighQA for integration in the ERP. Is it C, SQL, Python, et cetera? Though technically those are JSON calls if you're coming from our API. And it would be the same thing for the scripting environment, although it's slightly different. I don't know the exact technical detail as far as how it's coming out of the scripting engine, but through our API, it's JSON calls for what that's worth. And then there was another question about, so an observation that yes, you can pull data from the ERP to inject into HighQA, but then theoretically, yes, we can also pull data back from HighQA into the ERP. We've already done that with some integrations. And actually, I'll use this as a stepping stone into a different topic that we didn't have planned, but it's worth talking about. So the ERP connectors have standard off-the-shelf functionality, right? We treat them like products. They will have version control and such. So we'll have, Job Boss connector 2.0, 3.0 over time, right? They will evolve as we mature them and develop them with further capabilities. And we'll have release notes for those, and we'll do announcements to customers that have, each connector. When we have a new version, we'll let you guys know. So that's all part of our communication and ongoing support of these products. That said, there is a scope of functionality that they have, but these are all built on a extremely comprehensive and powerful scripting platform, where we can, on an individual basis, work with you in expanding the functionality to do sort of like custom functional expansions beyond what the off-the-shelf connector does. Okay, so they can be modified, is basically what I'm saying. That gets into kind of some packaging decisions and so on about which products you're purchasing. That's something that we'll deal with offline with you guys. But yeah, just wanted to let you know that that is something that's possible.
Yeah, and cost was another question that came up a couple times as well, and certainly we would field those questions kind of offline, but certainly reach out to me directly. I will put up some emails at the very end of the presentation. If you don't have my email, info at highqa.com is an easy one to send that to. That'll get to all of us. So additional questions on that, please reach out as well. I think that kind of answers majority of the questions that were built in to the Q&A at the moment. We do want to kind of shift. I know we're half hour in already, and that was about the time slot. So only hope to keep you here for another couple minutes, just as we talk briefly shift to really kind of more who we are as a company and HighQA, to educate anybody who is unfamiliar with that and kind of dig into that. I do want to mention that we do have time, and we'll have another slot at the very end for additional questions that may come up. So if you do have additional questions, please continue to put those in there. Again, whether that's about what I'm about to talk about as far as who HighQA is as a company, or related to the connector or API or anything as far as the integration side of it, happy to answer any additional questions that come to mind on that. And to ultimately, if you don't want to ask in this forum, again, contact us directly, and we'll be able to answer any additional questions moving forward as well. So HighQA as a company. So real quick, just to kind of go through a few slides, we have about 1,300 customers in 5 different continents, about 20,000 users worldwide. So we truly are a global company and have a presence everywhere, ultimately. We are really a company that has a collaborative mindset with data security really at the mind, really center of that. We with that collaborative mindset, we truly are customer driven culture. We do consider, and as me as the VP of customer success, really I'm here to make sure our customers are happy in using the software and making sure that the software is doing what they need it to do. And the way we're able to accomplish that is working with folks like Chris on the product team and support, and really everybody internally, but listening to our customers to make sure that ultimately they have in the software what they need, and any enhancement that we put in really does come from our customers as well. So real quickly, our vision: simply simplify and automate manufacturing quality. Really what we're trying to do is automate that mundane, that parts of the quality process that are just monotonous, and being able to try and automate as much as we can, but where we can automate, give you the tools to make that as not only faster, but more accurate as well, which gets to our mission. Obviously, we want to make sure that you're on time, on budget, but also on quality as well. And then finally, our values really kind of go back to that core of we're customer driven. So we want to have that innovation, integrity, but also teamwork and working with our customers and partners as well. So real quick, High QA is reimagining, quality manufacturing inside our High QA 360 product. Our uniform platform helps you win more business by simplifying and automating your manufacturing quality, both internally and throughout your supply chain, which we'll talk about here in a little bit as well. So IQA 360 ultimately is an all-in-one manufacturing quality suite that optimizes your quality planning, inspecting, and reporting with intuitive tools that help your team deliver high-quality parts, again, on quality, on time, and on budget. With IQA 360, really kind of taking care of, so think of this as two parts to our really product of suites. IQA 360, taking care of your internal manufacturing process. We're now going to kind of shift and talk a little bit about, our IQA hub allows us to really better manage your supply chain quality as well, and kind of keep track of everything in there. It leverages HiQA 360, so you can share, collaborate, manage, and monitor data with suppliers and customers from an all-in-one manufacturing-driven database with quality processes really at the center, as we talked about already. Whether your suppliers already use HiQA or not, you have the ability to give them the experience and keep that experience the same. Your quality requirements, and parts data are sent to them in real time, reducing interpretation errors, reducing, just errors in general as we're sending that data over kind of as we see it internally and are just transferring that. Suppliers can then input that measurement collected on their end, giving you visibility into the product as it occurs. So this allows you and allows your suppliers and you to really see that quality data before that part actually leaves their shop. So it really gives you that vision into their shop, again, before you get shipped a part that potentially is not on quality. So ultimately, we talked about this in multiple occasions ad nauseum here, I think today, but it really does go to show that the security portion of it is very important to us. So both HiQA 360 and HiQA Hub are built on the most secure infrastructure available. So by that, we're hosting an AWS Gov Cloud. So your data is fully encrypted, both at rest and in transit through our state-of-the-art end-to-end encryption protocols. This is fully ITAR compliant. We've also built in digital rights management, letting you manage with the specific user in your network, and also to allow you to do that among suppliers as well. So it really gives you some flexibility as to make sure that who's seeing what is secured and managed by you internally. Also, at the end of the day, while everything sounds great, it really depends on us as a company to be able to get that up and running for you guys. So HiQA delivers really those enterprise ready solutions with the support and services needed to get your team to the next level and using the software. We have our implementation specialists. They're really like us when we're talking about the product, very passionate about quality, very knowledgeable with the domain expertise in the industry to be able to get in and help you get up and running. Additionally, we also have our HiQA Academy, which offers on-demand certification courses that allow you to make sure not only your internal employees but your suppliers know how to use the software, and they're really allowing them to thrive using this software as well. So ultimately, we wanted to give you a quick look, but at the end of the day, a few comments from some of our customers, in quotes over the years of how we've helped them and how IQA as a company and a product have helped our customers. Obviously, we can tell you how great the product is to we're red in the face, but hearing that come from some customers a lot of time resonates a little bit better as well. Kind of in summary, again, don't need to read through these again, but ultimately, Hopefully you learned a little bit about, how connecting to your ERP can help as a company, but also, how we can help be your guide in doing this as well. Ultimately to IQA 360 to better collaborate and, remove added work, added issues and mistakes, and then ultimately at the end of the day, pass this down to our IQA hub, which allows us to better collaborate with our suppliers as well too. So finally, wanted to kind of open things back up, and I don't know if we had any additional questions pop up kind of as I was rambling along there. It doesn't look like it. I don't know, Chris, Lisa, do we have any questions pop up?
No, I think we're probably all set. And for the sake of time, we could probably start wrapping up.
Sounds good. Well, we do appreciate and wanted to say thank you, everyone, for your time here today. Ultimately, as mentioned before, watch your email. We will send the recording of this webinar, and certainly send that out here shortly. Feel free to share that with your colleagues, and certainly any questions that you have on anything we talked about today, feel free to reach out. We do have some additional upcoming webinars. Keep an eye out for that. You'll receive an email with the registration link. So keep an eye out on those. And ultimately, as mentioned before, feel free to reach out to us either at 888-727-1266 or info@highqa.com. And that will get in the right hands, and we'll reach out as we go. But thanks again, everyone, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, everyone.